Hi, my name's Eleanor Carroll. I'm a sales engineer based in Sydney, Australia. I work for OPSWAT. We protect critical infrastructure for IT and OT. So what is critical infrastructure? If you think about your typical Monday morning, you get out of bed, you jump in the shower, you might cook some breakfast, drop your kids to school, maybe get a bus or train to your office, then you grab a coffee, go to your office, send some emails, make some phone calls. In those couple of hours, you've just used water, sanitization, energy, education, transport, communications, finance. That's what we protect, to keep things easy for you so you don't get interrupted from your day-to-day life and you can do all the things you need to do with your family, your work. So I'm going to talk quickly about the IT side. So over here we have our MetaDefender drive, which has 5 AV engines for scanning devices like laptops, servers. So if you think about a laptop that has been maybe transit or BYOD device that moves around, potentially an infection on that, we scan that and clean that before it comes into your environment. Then we have our MetaDefender core and ICAP, which is, the core is kind of the brains of our system. It does multiple things. It does multi-scan with 30 plus AV engines. It does DLP for protection of blocking or redaction of PII, PCI, PHI. You can still pass those files through, so they're still usable. It also does content disarm and reconstruction. So stripping out active content that may be potentially malicious and passing that through what we call sanitize, right? Then we have our email security product here, which again is doing typical email security functionality like phishing, spam, but it also does what I've mentioned earlier, the multi-scanning with multiple AV engines, the deep content disarm reconstruction, and the DLP. So giving you those extra layers of protection and security. Then we have meta access, which is access based on compliance, right? So you've got an endpoint, a laptop with an endpoint on it, based off your policy, depending on what your configuration is, your firewall, your antivirus, your encryption settings, we will give access to the environment based off that device, just to make sure it's secure before it comes into your environment. And then we have MetaDefender Secure Storage, which does cloud storage sanitization. So files are uploaded to things like AWS, Azure. You can then move the files around to different buckets, depending if they're quarantined or they're passed through clean. Now we'll take a quick look at the cross-domain functionality. So we've got our kiosk here, which looks after removable media. Again, doing similar things, looking at multi-scan AV engines, deep CDR, content disarm reconstruction, and DLP. So you can scan your USB sticks, SD drives, mobile phones, etc. for people to bring content into your environment. We can then pass that through our net walls, which is our data diodes, so unidirectional gateways, which comes into the blue, out to the red, and where we would capture that then into our OT environment, into the vault secure storage, right? The thing about the vault storage, not only is storing the files there for use, it's also, you can run schedule scans to check for any updates on antiviruses. So now if we look at our OT environment, we have our Neuralizer, which does discovery and asset management. It also does country of origin to tell you where your devices have been manufactured, and that may be required for your regulation and compliance depending on what country and which sector you're in. Then we have our OT Fuse, which is our IDS IPS. So it's looking at the transactions between the devices, what ports and protocols are talking. We get a baseline then, and then we can lock that down to ensure there's no changes allowed in your OT environment. If we move down then to the workstation, this is where the engineers can come and configure these devices. We can have, again, our drive, which is scanning the engineering desktop to make sure it's clean, or we have our firewall, our USB firewall, which we can take our USB, which we've scanned on the kiosk, and scan that again to make sure it's clean and nothing malicious gets through. And then we have our vault, which we spoke about earlier, where we store the files. Thanks very much for watching the video. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.